Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Thundernumel and I welcome you to the channel. Today I'm here with Nix, who was the champion of, when was it? The last week's Chalice Slime Monthly. Everyone was rooting for him. He was playing DDDs and he went. I'll let him tell you how he did in the tournament.
Hey, it was going great for the first few rounds. I won the first two rounds pretty handily. One of them was against somebody, or maybe both of my first two rounds were against somebody who ended up in like top 16. They were on like the Xyz pile deck, with like the Raid Raptors and all of that stuff. I won that pretty handily, because Eternal Darkness and the Field Speller, hell of a card. But after that, we went to round three. Feature match started. I got to be in the first feature match, which is nice. I think that has something to do with nepotism. MBT like kind of knows who I am a little bit. I'm like an orbiter. Um, so he pulled me in to play DDD on stream, and it went pretty well. I was against Dinosaur, uh, opened Lancia, but it's only fair. They open Misk every game. But I 2-1'd it. I think the second game was just not winnable. But after that, things started to go downhill. Uh, but I won the feature match. That's what I really care about. But
Luckily, we didn't get to watch the other games.
yeah, you didn't have to watch me lose. You only got to watch me win. Um, I I think I don't think the deck was really to blame for any of it. One of my matches that I lost, I lost three matches, so just barely not able to top. And one of them I think was just completely unwinnable. I drew nothing but hand traps both games, just never saw any engine cards. And then a couple of them, there was one game versus Plunder, another person who ended up topping, where I think I could have won if I had played it perfectly. Like my sequencing in that game was pretty bad. So maybe in a more fair world I wouldn't have had to play it perfectly, but I think maybe I could have scraped by if I had. And then there was another game where I misplayed just because I haven't
Honestly,
read.
Ho- Honestly, I've always been saying that DDD will never be meta just because you have to play perfectly in a tournament setting,
Yeah,
and considering that you're playing DDD and you're playing like 5, 6, 7 rounds, 9 maybe, you're gonna
yeah, it's
misplay
eight
for
round
sure.
tournament. Yeah,
There,
it was bound to happen.
there isn't a
Um,
world in which you don't misplay with DDDs. Even if you
that's
play the deck for like 10 years prior, you will still
yeah,
misplay.
yeah. I mean, yeah, for context, I've played this deck basically since it was revealed. I mean, like I opened a box of Battle of Chaos when I got back into this game. Not Battle of Chaos, that's the last set. Dimension of Chaos. Oh, funny that when Chaos is in the name, we get DDD support. Um, but I built like the really really bad version of the deck that came out where it was just like slimes and you didn't have Genghis yet. It was just like basically rank 7 turbo with Leonidas and Oracle King Dark.
Well, actually, you could make DR and Small Caesar, and then when Small Caesar and DR get
Yeah.
destroyed, you special summon them back and
Hey,
gain
you gain
1000.
life point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was
It's
neat.
so good. Very good. Yeah. No, I mean the win con was basically go second, do 7600 damage and make flare metal. So, ever since those days, I've been playing this deck, and have only really dropped it in like short intervals to, play other things that I thought were interesting, but I always come back to this one. Just I think it's really fun, it's really cool, and people think you're cool when you play it, so
Well, that's
that's
debatable. Like, I've been playing Yu-Gi-Oh since the DDD structures came out, and people were always shitting on me for playing the deck. They were like saying it's way too linear and something. But yeah,
uh,
let's
that's
just
a weird criticism.
let's cut the. Well, I mean, I know they're wrong, but yeah.
Like,
So
what's their definition of nonlinear? Uh,
let's get into the deck list. So let's see
sure.
if there was any spicy stuff you played.
Okay. I will say that at the time of the CSM, not very many people were on Small World. Um, Most people were playing like Pyrrhe's map. They were on the Zero King Rage and Cerberus package, and I decided I didn't want to do that. Uh, I don't really want to get too much into the theory of whether you should play that or whether you should not play that, just because I think it's probably better covered by the other places. I'm sure other people have talked about it. Um, but I'll just kind of start going here.
Yeah, yeah,
Uh,
sure.
there's basically nothing exciting in these first few cards.
Well, I guess
Three, three,
like
three, three.
if you could say that the Kepler other effect is kind of important in the grind game.
I mean, that is
People
true.
people do forget about it. Like they say, you have only one scale, you cannot activate the effect of Gilgamesh. Oh,
Yeah,
woe is me,
you
what
normal
will I
summon.
do? Like
Yeah,
normal
I mean
summon the Kepler,
they're
pick up back the scale, and then you can just link away into another Gilgamesh, get two more scales, and start playing from there.
yeah. That's a thing that comes up. Sometimes you want to, well, spoiler, Ragnarok right here. You want to add the Ragnarok that's in your scale back to your hand, so you can like use a Scroll Slime Engrave to summon it and get something out. Because I am playing Nibiru, and sometimes you have a hard time adding that token if it's particularly fat. Um, and you have Nibiru. You might. I don't want to Zeus it. I don't want to steal it with my headhunt. Um, so a lot of the time, like Ragnarok is your way to out it. And then Kepler's other effect also comes up in the situation where like you use your materials to get a couple negates with the High King Caesar, but then the Caesar's still on board. And you could either link it off, get a contract search or whatever, or you could get Kepler and then normal summon the Kepler, bounce the Caesar back, revive both of your Gengises, and make it again. I think that's absolutely hilarious. I think any
That's actually
opportunity,
very very big brain. Yeah.
yeah, any opportunity you have to do that, do it, even if it loses you the game, because it's extremely funny. Um, but
uh,
yeah, so those are my four three ofs. It was Swirl Slime,
okay,
Kepler, Copernicus, and Griffin.
just one more
Um,
question. Would you
yeah,
consider playing the second Ragnarok?
um, that is actually something that I have gotten into conversations with people about. Um, I really, really want to play a second Ragnarok because it does come up where, you put it in your scale and you want another one. Like you have a spare Swirl Slime that you've sent to grave, or you have a search on the crackback, and you just really want to have Ragnarok to be able to get that really immediate revive, clear whatever straggler is on your opponent's board, and push for game without having to use the scale effect of Ragnarok and have the damage and risk not being able to kill them. Um, but I just can't find room for it. Like, I don't think that justifies playing extra cards. And I just don't know what I would cut. Um,
Yeah, that's
I
that's where I'm at basically. I flip flop between
yeah
one and two rags, and I just can't decide. Like I like the second rag; it comes up a lot, and then I still cannot justify playing a second rag. So I don't know.
yeah it's really unfortunate. In a format where hand traps are less necessary, then like I could see running another Ragnarok. You could run more of your
Definitely, definitely,
extenders,
yeah,
like
yeah.
all of that stuff. But there, you just need too many hand traps at this point, and don't have the deck space to play luxuries like two Ragnarok. Um, and similarly here, I'll put those right there, and I'll just kind of lay out the one ofs. My other one of, well, that is, I guess, slightly controversial, or at least, not 100% decided on, is Orthros. Bumping the camera there. I cut Orthros down to one just to make room for some stuff. I was on 10 hand traps during the Chalice Line Monthly, and although I did, have a couple of games where I bricked on only hand traps, that's just not supposed to happen. Um, and I kind of felt like it wasn't enough. Um, I think, I think anywhere from 10 to 12 is a good amount, but I just wanted more. And so I cut the second Orthos to make room. It definitely does come up. There are situations where it's like, oh, I have the Orthros in hand, and I can make Baron de Fleur now without having to use any of my searches on the Orthros. Or I drew the Orthros, but I still have another one in deck that I can scale without having to like cycle through my scales in order to get to the exact position I want to be in. Um, you know, I
So
I
okay,
don't
yeah, I personally play two Orthros, but
right.
I guess we can talk about Baron de Fleur when we come into the extra deck. So
Sure.
let's just move on.
Yeah, sure. And I was on two Arthros during the CSM as well, because I was on fewer hand traps. But I cut this in this build. And then I am playing Thomas and Lamia. I think if you're not, you're wrong. Uh, I think people severely. I think even in the Discord, like there are some people who severely undervalue the utility provided by Thomas. Like, they acknowledge the Griffin play where you like scale Griffin Thomas, you pendulum summon the Copernicus, and then pop the Griffin with its own effect, add it back with Thomas, and summon it. Um, but I almost feel like they think mentioning it means they're addressing it, where like they don't really have a good enough argument to not play the Thomas.
Well,
Because I think that play actually just comes up frequently enough to where like if you're not playing Thomas, you're playing
that
kind of
play
an
comes
inferior
up
version
like
of the deck.
at least
It
40% of the games,
it's like half of your games.
and
Like
also
you,
also Orthros isn't hard once per turn, so you can pop Orthros, then add it
correct.
back with the Thomas, then you can pop
Yep.
Orthros again. Also, what you
Absolutely.
can do is, well, I mean, if you're playing like Dark Contract with the Witch or something, it's infinite fuel. Plus, if you're playing a grind game, you can add back the Kepler, you can add back the Griffin, you can add back the Thomas. Like
Right.
the amount of times people usually think that DDD theory is just make a turn one board and then you either win or
Oh,
lose
yeah.
immediately, which it's
That's not
absolutely
true.
not true. Yeah,
Yeah, you have your turn 3 is like extremely important with this deck. You need to be able to like push through after your opponent can't break your board. Um, and
and like
even then, like, yeah,
if
go
you
ahead.
want to remove your scales, you can use Thomas effect to summon the Ragnarok from the deck. If you still have the Ragnarok, then make like a
Right.
Machina from there. And you do keep in mind that the opponent takes half the damage there, but still, like it's
Right.
incredibly useful to have.
Yeah, there are definitely a lot of situations where it's like I'll have another scale. Maybe I scaled Thomas Griffin and my other scale is open at the end of my combo, and I don't have like a Swirl Slime engrave or what have you, and I'm adding back a Kepler, scaling it and summoning Ragnarok, like pendulum summoning it. Um,
And also,
those
like you have,
situations
if
come
you're
up.
not playing Rage and Cerberus, the only one card combo that you have does involve Thomas. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
crappy combo, but sometimes you only have Kepler and nothing else. And as for the
Yeah.
Lamia, I think that it's pretty good if you're running Vice Typhoon, and we can see that you are. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So my other two one-ofs, the Graveyard Fusions. Um, I guess I can talk about kind of all of these three in tandem. I mean, Necro Slime, I don't really think that needs introduction. I can kind of just gloss over that. Uh, if you're not playing Necro Slime, you're not playing DDD. Um, Lamia, everyone knows at this point, like you can use Oracle King Dark and Lamia and you can make a Siegfried, but there are also situations where it's necessary outside of that combo, like one card combo with Gate requires you to send Lamia off Copernicus to get into Gilgamesh. Um, and then also it's just like a fine extender, you know? Uh, if they like DPE pop the second guy you summon, like they pop your Griffin or something, and maybe you happen to draw the Lamia. It's like, okay, well, I can just summon another body. There are situations where like you might just be out of bodies depending on your opening hand if they like pop one of them. Because a lot of people recognize Gilgamesh as a choke point that, if they don't have like targeted negation or anything like that, or like just non-destructive negation, um, they want to stop you from getting there in the first place. And a lot of them will just see two monsters on board and they'll be like, all right, time to fire it. That happens with Sword Soul. That happens with like DPE decks where they just want to keep you off of bodies. And Lemmy is another body. Um,
Yeah, okay. I had a question about how often do you make the Siegfried with Lamia and Vice Typhoon?
um, oh, with Vice Typhoon itself, as
Yeah,
opposed to
I
like
kind of find
Dark.
myself using Device Typhoon as a level 7 body more and more often, and I think it's pretty interesting. Like, you don't have to
Yeah.
lock yourself into summoning Orthros from hand and then using Griffin and Orthros to make a Siegfried. You can just do it this
Oh
way.
yeah. Yeah, you can do it this way. There are situations. It's very situational. I think like there in most situations that revive, you're probably gonna be wanting to like revive a one of your Xyz monsters to like get a search or a send or whatever, or one of them needs to be used on your Griffin as well. But there definitely are situations where this comes up. There are times I have done this. I think in tournament, definitely in testing, um,
Yeah, it's kind of
and
dependent on your hand, and like people just want to see the combo sheet, and then that's like the only combo you ever do is the one that you read
right.
off of the combo sheet, which is definitely not true. Like depending on
Yeah.
your 5 card hand, you could have a situation where let's say you have an Xyz on the field, you use Lamia to send the Xyz, Then when you summon the Lamia, you revive the Typhon. From there you can make a Siegfried,
Right.
and then with the Typhon you can make the Gilgamesh that gives you an
Hmm.
additional revive, so you can revive whatever
Correct.
you wanted to revive previously.
Yeah. Exactly.
But that's
Um,
like niche, and people have to recognize that it happens, even though that it's not written in any of the combo sheets.
yeah, exactly. Um, but yeah, I mean, I think Vice Typhoon is pretty much necessary at this point. You don't have amazing access to hiking Genghis without it, because you don't want to be spending this from your hand. You aren't consistently like drawing Thomas or whatever, and you don't want to be banishing one of your small Genghis from the graveyard because that is supposed to be material for hiking Caesar. Um, so if you know you're making Genghis or hiking Genghis on your first turn, or even a lot of the time just on the crack pack, like you need this in order to get there.
Yeah, that's one more reason to play an additional copy of Ragnarok. If you're up against
Yeah,
like a
true.
trap deck, you want to start off by making the big Genghis, and the only
Oh
way to
yeah.
make the big Genghis is having a level 5 or higher, which is basically your Ragnarok, Thomas, or Vice Typhon.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, this came up a lot like before Battle of Chaos, where I was on three Ragnarok, I was on two Thomas, and I would be against like Tri Brigade or whatever, and they would set Revolt pass, and I would activate Swirl Slime, and I'd ask for a response and be like, nope, that's fine, because they're expecting me to go into small Genghis, and they can just interrupt me at their leisure at that point. But I'm like, oh, Swirl Slime resolves, I win, because I have Ragnarok in hand, and I summon Big Genghis, and now their Revolt's dead. Um, but yeah, uh, stuff like that can still happen. I really, really wish I could play two Ragnarok. I just need to find a way to justify it.
Honestly, it just depends on the format. Yeah, okay, we can move on.
Yeah. Spells, or the in archetype back row, it's gonna be really standard. Same 3-1-1-1 ratio with the Gate, the Swamp King, the Field Spell, and Headhunt. There's a lot of glare on that, so let me move it. Um, I don't think there's really that much that I need to explain here. I'm almost considering after the Albaz structure that comes out, I'm wondering if I should play more of this card, like two copies or something, because I want to make like the fusion lock, um, because that seems like it's going to be really good in that meta. But for right now, you don't need more than one.
Well, I mean, it depends really. If they, for instance, you can more often than not, you can choose either to go into a Siegfried or add a field spell, and you can just
Right.
choose to add a field spell and end on a big Genghis. But
Hmm.
if they do have, like, let's say, evenly matched or even
Right.
infinite impermanence or something, then you're
Uh-huh.
kind of screwed with
You're
that.
you're in a bad position there.
Yeah,
But I mean, if all of their plays are fusion based, then unless that first fusion monster pops it, which I guess would be exactly Guardian Chimera, right?
yeah.
Um, then they're kind of screwed, regardless of if they negate your monsters or not. Because all your monsters have to do for your field spell to have value is sit there. Um, so unless they're removing them, then what are they gonna do?
Yeah, okay, so uh, let's see. You have one for one and small world, so let's talk about
Yeah.
small world bridging for a bit.
Sure. Yeah, yeah. So going into the consistency cards here, I'm on one for one. I think you kind of have to play it. One for one summoning Kepler is a 1.5 card combo. Um, and then my consistency card, instead of the map, I'm deciding to play Small World. Just I think there's theory here, but in general, I just don't want to have to think about not killing myself. Um, in Yu-Gi-Oh! So it's much easier to just play Small World, and I'm on a bunch of hand traps anyway. This converts them into combo pieces, um,
Well,
and
also,
and
it's like it doesn't lock you into playing the Piri Ray map first, and you don't have to
correct, yes,
telegraph what you're playing to your opponent.
right, right. And now we're getting into some of the other theory stuff, some of like the other things that were kind of my the turning point in my decision making, where like I don't like that the first action I take tells my opponent exactly how I'm going to play out my turn. That's my problem with the map. Now, I did watch Jack Yu-Gi-Oh's deck profile that I think he posted this morning, if I'm not mistaken, like at ass o'clock in the morning. Um, and he was actually on both, which I thought was a pretty interesting idea. That was something I was thinking about doing um, at one point, but I just haven't tested it. But
depending on the
I
combo, you would end up with either two or 3,000 life points, which really isn't
yeah.
a lot if you're up against like basically anything that can summon a big dude,
Yeah, and especially since I'm not on the Rage package, I don't have a way to mitigate that life point loss without going into Oracle King Dark exactly.
which doesn't
Um,
really happen all that often,
yeah,
honestly.
yeah. Now, as my bridge, I am on Archfiend Eccentric. A lot of people are moving on to Phantasme, and I just haven't tested that, nor do I actually own any copies of Phantasme. But Archfiend Eccentric, for anyone who doesn't know, is really, really good. It has, it's a light level 3, so it shares stuff in common with like your hand traps, and it has like no stats in common with uh, your like DD monsters. So except like Orthros exactly, but that doesn't really
It
matter.
has the same defense
Um,
as Orthros, right?
uh, oh no, I'm sorry, it does not.
No, the
I
hand
was
traps
thinking
have
of
the
the
same
Ghost
defense
Girls.
as
The Ghost Girls
Orthros.
have the same
Yeah,
defense as
yeah.
Orthros. Yeah, yeah. But Archfiend Eccentric being is a fiend. Sorry, that's the part I left out that actually lets you bridge into any of your DD monsters. So it has fiend and nothing else in
So
common with every
basically, any
monster in your
Ghost
deck.
Girl plus Small World, if you reveal the Archfiend Eccentric, you can search any of your DDs. The only difference, the only time that doesn't come up is if you have Ghost Ogre, right? Because it's
Yeah.
light.
So I'll show my my hand trap lineup here. I am on 3 Nibiru. There was a point where I was considering just not playing it and like cutting the losses and saying like, if I don't open Nibiru and another hand trap, then Nibiru is dead. But I think it is still live enough of the time to warrant playing it. Ghost Ogre, because it's the best hand trap in the game right now. It hits a lot of things just incidentally in the middle of their combos in ways that they have trouble playing through, and then, also it just shuts off the Brave package right away, which is the primary reason for playing it. Valor, just because it's generically good. I think most people have picked up on Valor being better than Imperm in this deck, because you can draw into it and, like, have it on the crackback, or not, sorry, not on the crackback, but like after you make your board, you can still like use it from your hand, whereas Imperm at that point you would have to set, and then you might not have the zones in order to do that because you might have 2 contracts and headhunt and 2 scales.
That happens
Um,
too often.
yeah, yeah,
The only
happens
the
quite
only
frequently.
difference between Valor and Imperm that goes in favor of Imperm is that you can Imperm the site if they decide to site
Yeah,
block you.
so you could Imperm on your turn. But I mean, I will spoil. I am playing some Imperm in the side for when I know I'm going second,
Yeah,
and I
and
want to see it that
I
way.
was also wanting to mention, like, if you are worried about having Ghost Ogres as your, like, small world discard fodder for bridging, you can just replace any card in the deck you like with one Phantasme, and then you can
Correct.
reveal the Ghost Ogre, reveal the Phantasme in your deck, and then that bridges you into any of your DDs that are not level 7, which this deck plays none. Actually, it plays Vice Typhoon,
Vice
but yeah.
Typhon. Yeah, but why would you search Vice Typhon?
Well, I mean,
I mean,
you could
they're,
make
they're
big Genghis, but you won't probably because if you make your
yeah.
big Genghis from
Uh,
hand, then Vice Typhoon becomes dead in the graveyard. So yeah, unless you're playing
yeah,
double big Genghis, which most people are not.
yeah. I mean, you could if you have a Caesar or sorry, a small Genghis left in the extra deck or something, and you have like Swirl Slime exactly in your hand.
Yes,
Then you
but
could
then
like
you're at
make
that
some
point you're not making
right,
big Genghis in the first place, so it doesn't really
right.
matter.
Like what's even the point? Just send it with Copernicus.
Correct, correct.
Um, and then the other thing Advantage Valor has over Imperm is obviously I'm playing Small World, and Imperm is
Yes,
not a
yeah,
monster,
exactly, exactly.
so
I was
a
saying
little
that
bit dead.
the only point that Imperm has over Valor is basically the sight lock.
Right. And then Ash Blossom is the last one. Now, during the CSM, just to cut my deck down to 40, I had a Valor out and an Ash out, and it was on 10. But I just wanted to play more hand traps, so I put these in. And if anyone is keeping count, this is actually 41 cards. I'm trying to find a way to cut it down to 40, but I mean, I don't think it's like that big a deal.
Well, to be honest,
I
it's
think
a
even
pretty
without.
clean list. Like, if you could even add an extra Ragnarok, an extra Orthros, and I think not much would
Yeah.
change. It's just
Yeah.
the odds of drawing a hand trap would be slightly less.
Yeah, that's correct.
So let's move on to the extra deck.
Yeah, the extra deck, I'm pretty sure that if I told you to name all 15 cards in my extra deck right now without looking, you could do it.
Yeah, probably. The only question I have is how often do you go into Baron de Fleur? because
Okay. So
I
we'll
I
we'll yeah,
yeah,
we'll answer
let's just lay
the
it out. So
Baron question. So I'll lay out the cards that, everyone expects me to have here, and there's Baron de Fleur. And then
if you could move the Xyz up a bit because of the glare, that would be great. But yeah,
sure, I'll move everything. Um, but yeah, it's literally card for card the same as every other DD player's extra deck. Three Gilgamesh, two small Genghis, one big Genghis, one Oracle King Dark, Siegfried Baron, uh, Caesar Tell, High Caesar, two Machinex Zeus. I don't think I need to get into really any of the specifics here, except with Baron, I guess, since you wanted to
actually,
talk about
I
that.
wanted to say something about the Machinex before we move on to the Baron.
Oh, sure.
People had a misconception about Thomas and the Machinex
Oh, yeah.
before.
Yes.
You cannot add the Machinex face down to your extra deck with the Thomas because extra deck monsters
Correct.
cannot be added to the hand. So yeah, that's a big
Uh,
misconception that I
it's
see
it's
people
it's actually
always.
not just that they can't be added to the hand, because if this was on the field and I
Yeah, you could do it
summoned
from the field. Yeah,
Kepler, I could add it back. The reason is because the face up extra deck and the face down extra deck are the same location. So a card can't be added from the extra deck to the extra deck.
yeah,
And this actually was something that I was watching Pack's video, and he thought you could do this,
yeah.
and
I
I
think
left a
that's
comment about
where
it.
the misconception came from. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's
there were a couple of legal plays that I saw that he mentioned, like adding that from your extra deck to your extra deck with Thomas, and then also saying that like your opponent can't drop any hand traps on you if you use uh, Rage's effect to stop effects from the hand, because Imperm is still live because it activates in the spell and trap zone,
correct,
regardless of if
correct.
you're
Yeah.
you're activating it from the hand or not. Um, so there are just a couple things like that. But yeah, the Baron de Fleur question. I don't honestly make it that frequently. I think there are a lot of scenarios where I could make it, and I prioritize making High King Caesar as my fifth summon instead. Um, just because I think when you're making Baron de Fleur and a lot of your combos, it does hinder the power of your end board.
Exactly,
Um,
exactly.
so it's pretty hard to go into Baron de Fleur and High King Caesar. You have to have a pretty good hand to do that.
I think
And
exactly Swirl and Necro plus the other combo.
yeah, so
Plus
like the
the
way,
Orthros plus because you cannot special
right,
summon the Orthros and then go into
correct,
Baron de Fleur. Because when you special summon the Orthros, regardless of if you special summon it by its own effect or you special summon it in any other way, you cannot go into Baron because you're locked into Fiends.
right,
I've honestly
and
been debating cutting the Baron, and if you're
yeah,
playing on a budget, definitely just don't buy Baron. I don't think it's
yeah,
worth it.
yeah. I would be inclined to agree. Like this combo right here, this three card combo that I think most people are fairly familiar with at this point. You swirl slime. I mean, I don't know if you want me to run through it. I guess
Sure,
I
sure.
will since I'm already doing it. And what people do is they will use the swirl slime effect to summon the Copernicus. They'll Copernicus and they'll send their Necro Slime for the follow-up. And they'll trigger the Genghis to bring back the Griffin. And then what they'll do is they'll use the Griffin to search
Search the Orthros, normal summon
Orthros.
the Orthros,
Right.
go into
They
Baron,
normal
and then go
summon
from
it.
there.
Right. Make Baron de Fleur. That is my side deck. Let's move that out of the way. And then you have your two level 4s on board that you can turn into Gilgamesh, Pendulum Summon back out, make your rank 4, and, do all of the plays that you want. Except you're now in a position where not only have you already used your Genghis effect, but you've already used your Griffin effect. And using the Griffin effect and not searching Headhunt, unless you already have Headhunt in your hand, means that you are not getting to Headhunt. Which I think in this meta, not enough people have caught on to Droll not, or not, sorry, not Droll, Droplet being that great for me to feel comfortable not having a non-monster disruption on my field. Um,
Also very important, if they do have a hand trap, they're gonna hand trap your Genghis. I'm like 90% sure you're not getting to special summon the Genghis with the Genghis from the graveyard if they have a Veiler or Imperm or anything. So if they already use their hand trap, what good does Baron do you? I
that's true.
honestly, and in the grind game, you're not making Baron. Like, if you didn't make it on your first turn, you're not making it. I'm pretty sure.
Um, There are some situations where I do make it on like turn 3. and that's mostly just when I have an opportunity to like style. Uh, the undersold value of Baron is that like you can pop stuff with it. So if you're not setting Orthros, like you can still use it and not have to like link summon and waste a Gilgamesh. You can just like pop one of your cards, or you can even like use it just pop something, get it out of the scale, put it in the extra deck, which is nice for cards like Ragnarok that you would otherwise have to like bounce back to your hand or whatever. Um, but yeah, all in all, I mean, oh, and one other thing, it's really, really funny. If you like have to use this to stop disruption on your turn, then on your standby phase, you like revive something from graveyard and you trigger the Ragnarok. Um, but other than that, like, yeah, no, I completely agree. That same combo, what you can do instead of is just search the headhunt, which is already guaranteed disruption that your opponent can't droplet, and then you normal summon the Copernicus instead, send the Necro Slime, you still have the Swirling Grave because you didn't use it to summon the Copernicus, and you make the second Genghis there. And then you make High King Caesar on the fifth summon. And you're still immune to Nibiru. Sure, your Gilgamesh could get ashed, but like at that point, you have High King Caesar, you make Machinex, you have a contract, and you have Headhunt, which is like basically your board
Gilgamesh can
anyway.
only be Veilered and Impermed, it cannot be Ashed. Right?
Did I say Ash?
Yeah,
Oh, I meant to say Imperm. Sorry.
sure, sure.
Yeah.
Okay,
But like,
so
so yeah, at that point, like even if they have a hand trap that you can't stop with your High King Caesar, like you still have essentially your full board minus Siegfried, whereas like they could bait your Baron with an Imperm and then Nibiru you. Like, I
correct,
just think it's better.
correct. So if you're playing on a budget, you don't have to play Baron at all. Like even
Yeah.
another copy of Big Genghis would be a great replacement, in my opinion,
Yeah.
for the grind game at
Yeah.
least.
Yeah. Honestly, you could even play High King Alexander if you're feeling spicy. It's another revival guy. You can summon the Orthros, special summon the. It's not the
I
best
don't
option,
argue. I
but
don't argue for Big Alexander, just because if you're playing like a Ghost and Needle Fiber, then sure, go ahead and play Big Alexander.
sure.
That's what I say. But if you're not, then just play whatever you like. I mean, DDD
Yeah.
is meant to be played in many
Yeah.
different ways, so it's
Right.
fine either way.
If you're on a budget, this is your flex spot.
Exactly. Okay,
Um, yeah.
so let's see what the side deck you decided to bring. What's in the
Sure.
side?
So this is different from my CSM side deck, but a lot of it is the same. I'm on Gamma. I think everyone's kind of picked up on Gamma being a really, really good card in this format. It just kind of hits everything. And some people don't read Gilgamesh and hit your Gilgamesh with Gamma, and then you just summon a free guy, and it's really funny. But playing Gamma unfortunately means you have to play Driver, which kind of eats a slot in the side deck, but you don't miss it too much. And Gamma's certainly worth it. Um, there are also scenarios which don't really come up. I think it came up like literally once, where I gammed on my turn, had them left. No, I didn't even gamma on my turn. I think I Lancia'd my opponent and then gammaed them. So I I Lancia'd them, I gammaed them. And I think they didn't get banished. I don't know if that's how that actually works, but it
Yeah,
ended up not
I
banishing in
think
the end phase.
they get to stay up on the field. I think Lancia
Yeah.
is until the end phase, so you can choose
Yeah, I don't.
to
Yeah, I
resolve it
don't know
that way.
which one actually stops applying first, or if you get to choose. Um, I
I
mean,
think
this
you
is.
either get to choose or they stay, but it's fine either way because I mean,
Yeah.
what you're gonna do? You can tribute both for a Ragnarok. That's about it.
Mhm. Yeah, this is during the end phase. This is for the rest of this turn. So I
Okay, so
imagine
they
that
do not get banished. They
Gamma,
do not get banished for
Gamma,
sure.
yeah, they don't get banished. And then what you can do is you can normal summon a Swirl Slime and make Baron.
Oh, actually, that never came up for me. Damn. Okay,
Yeah.
then I guess you can play Baron. That's fine.
Yeah, that's the deciding factor
Normal
right there.
summon Swirl Slime the Spice.
Yeah, it also happened where I gammed on my turn because my opponent like Abyss Dwellered in my draw phase.
Yeah,
And
that's
I gammed it.
pretty
And it's
great.
like a good way, Baron lets you have a way to like get rid of these two guys who are otherwise blocking your field.
You could also
Um,
gamma the site. You could also
yeah.
well, you could gamma the Ash if you're starting off with like the Gate or Small World or something.
Yeah. There are a lot of things you can do with it. And a lot of things just really, it negates and destroys any monster. Like, not a lot of hand traps, I guess basically no other hand traps except Orange Light do that. Um, so moving on, 3 Lancia. I think it's just, a really, really good card this format. You can shotgun it, stop the adventure token stuff, and a lot of decks just like to banish. Doesn't come in every matchup, but in the matchups where it does, it decides games. Um, and it's also a Small World bridge, or a Small World starting point if you draw multiples or you don't need it or whatever. Although I will say in like game 2, I'm siding out Small World in the Arch Phoenix centric. I mean, one thing about the Gamma package is that this maps really nicely onto Small World, Small World, Small World. That is hard to say.
Yeah, and Arch
Small
Phoenix
World,
centric,
Small
yeah.
World, Small World, Archfiend. So you get to do that, and then you can just replace like a different hand trap with this, or you can just side out cards that are bad going second. Um, Here I'm on 2 Imperm just because I didn't have room for a third one. Um, a lot of it is like just a lot of decks, fold to stuff like Valor. This is more copies of that. It can play on your turn as well if you're going second. So it's not bad to top deck where Valor might be. And then, kind of weirdly, this was for a locals. I decided to play both Eternal Darkness and Errors. Just because Eternal Darkness, there are a couple of matchups that I really expected to see at locals, like Sword Soul and Fluanderies, where if I'm going first, like this kind of just wins the duel unless Fluanderies has exactly unexplored winds. In which case, like you can Siegfried negate the unexplored winds, because in that matchup, when you're in that matchup, you're siding this in, you don't need to make High Caesar because it's completely useless in that matchup. So you just tunnel into like Siegfried, Big Genghis, set this, and you win the game. They just can't play. And then errors I sided in, or I put in the side just because I expected to see back row. I don't really know how good of a job it would have done, if I had a different matchup spread, but at the last locals I went to, it didn't come in at all. Um, in theory, it negates like evenly matched, which is extremely funny. But
It negates evenly, it negates imperm, it negates
yeah,
eldritch stuff on the field. It doesn't negate him in the graveyard.
right. It's really good into certain matchups. I just didn't happen to see those matchups, and I think a lot of people aren't expecting to see those matchups in like high tier competitive play, but um, this was at a locals, so I put it in just in case. It just didn't happen to come up. And then these are for going first. One thing that I learned from the CSM was that I did not have enough gas going first. When I knew that I just needed to play uninterrupted in game 2 or game 3, um, I didn't have anything to put in for that. I just had like a bunch of hand traps. So I think I stole this from Pack. I'm pretty sure he was playing this. But I did end up finding space, yeah, for the one of Called by the Grave and 3 triple tactics, just to be able to keep playing through stuff. And triple tactics, honestly, in certain matchups, like weird janky matchups, this is a really good going second card too. Like if you have a hard time outing shit like Dragoon, and if I played against someone who was playing like Dark Magician in at locals, and this card they Dragoon negate and you steal the Dragoon and you win the game.
What
Um,
are your thoughts on Crossout Designator?
if
Considering that you're playing like 50 hand traps.
Right, I'm playing a ton of hand traps anyway. Um, it's just I don't know if the hand traps I'm playing are in the main are necessarily like the most effective, and also like I want to draw my hand traps. I don't want to like have them as targets, and I don't know like where I would find room in the deck. Because I feel like those are competing for space, not just in deck building, but also like in your opening hand. Um,
Yes, the
and
opening hand part is, I think, the more important part. Because when I made the anti-Nibiru video, people were commenting, just draw
just play
Crossout
crossout.
Designator, it's fine. You can play around hand traps, it's just that you just have to see when you're hit what your resources that are left are, and then what you can make from there. And you have to do all of those
Hmm.
calculations in your head. That's why DDD is hard to play, because people expect you
Yeah,
to just immediately know what to do. This deck is hard,
yeah,
guys.
yeah. I think it has become much simpler, much more manageable with the new support. Like the pure play style, like I think overtaking the synchro play style as, I don't think I'm projecting here as most people's preferred like builds of the deck. I don't know if you were on pure before Battle of Chaos or not, but I was
No,
still
no,
on the
no,
synchro
no.
stuff.
I was playing synchro, Crystal Wing,
Yeah,
Siegfried. I was doing
yeah,
the gay shit too. I was summoning the scythe from the extra deck, like TG Wonder Needle Fiber into TG
yeah.
Wonder Magician, popping the scythe. I was gay as fuck. But yeah, like those were the combo decks that were abusing the engine of the day. Basically, that's not necessarily better than any other deck. It's just like you're playing DDDs because you love playing DDDs, and you have to play
Right.
the gay shit because you
Uh,
have
you
to.
were you were just jumping through more hoops to do what other decks can do anyway.
Exactly, exactly. But
Um,
this time around, we
but
have something fun to play around with. So
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
pretty grateful for the new support.
hmm Yeah, absolutely. I honestly think the biggest thing, I mean, obviously, it wouldn't be the same without like any of the pieces. Like Headhunt is cracked, cracked down even. Um,
Oh my god, this
the
was terrible.
yeah,
Guys,
Griffin,
please don't
Griff,
unsubscribe.
Gri Griffin does so much. I was always saying that like one of the most glaring oversights in the card pool of DDDs was that we just don't have a free summon from hand like every other deck does. And Griffin gave us that and like three other things that are like all really good.
My idea was
Um,
like, if you can make something that searches swirl slime from the deck, then the deck would be perfect. But apparently, we got a swirl slime searcher plus a trap searcher, plus you have a
yeah,
mulligan, plus you have free special summon from the hand, plus you have a Dingirsu, plus you can play Zeus
yeah.
now. Like
Right,
that's
yeah, but and getting to that, what I was going to say is, those are amazing, but I think the biggest thing that made this deck playable was the addition of Machinex. Not just because it's like a really busted card, but because it's another like named DDD extra deck monster that is worth ending on. Whereas like before, if you're playing pure, you have like two good
exactly
boss
Caesar
monsters.
and exactly Siegfried, and that's about it.
Yeah, right. And what that means is that if you had to go into Gilgamesh as an extender, like your end board was just totally, fucked basically.
Yeah,
Like if you were building to go into like the high rolly stuff that you had to play to compete, like Crystal Wing and the Hulk combo and all of that stuff, but you got disrupted. Gilgamesh wasn't enough of a consolation prize because your archetypal like end board wasn't good enough.
best thing you
Um,
could do is
but
like Apocalypse and maybe make a Siegfried if you were lucky enough to have a Lamia,
correct.
and that's about it.
Right, but now we have Machinex and it is good enough. Um, and
It's great
the whole
actually. In
deck
some
is yeah.
matchups, it just auto wins. For instance, against Sky Strikers, it just shits on Ray recursion. They go Kagari, you take the Kagari, no Kagari for them, no Ray recursion for them, nothing. Like I think
Yeah.
where it works amazingly. Where it doesn't work, it's still fine because you can just make it as a 3000 beater over anything, and then just
Yeah.
walk over
Makes
something, make Zeus, you win from there.
I mean,
Hopefully,
yeah, I had one game. I mean, it lets us play in a simplified game state in a much like more powerful way. Where like I had one match where game one I was against Virtual World Sword Soul. And game one we both just kind of bricked, but I didn't brick hard enough to not make Machinex. So I just played Zeus beatdown and capped him off starters the whole game and we won. Or it just really handily. Game two I made a board and he scooped. Like the match was over in 5 minutes and we played 3 games for fun before the next round. Like, uh, but yeah, without Machinex, I probably would have lost that match. Um, I just think that Machinex is probably the most important piece. It lets you
yeah,
pivot like the way
I
you
think
build the
all of
deck
the
into
pieces
something.
are extremely important because without
Yeah.
any of them, the deck would be weaker. I mean, we're playing all four of the new cards.
Right,
I don't
exactly.
think anyone is like siding them out. No one is like playing less than three Griffin now. No one is playing less than two Machinex. I mean, I don't know. Maybe some
Mhm.
people are, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I depending on like if I know I'm going second, I'll might side out the trap and the field spell. But like for more hand traps because I know I can play like something
Yeah, yeah,
competent
sure,
without
sure,
them and stop my opponent. But like
sure.
game one, no, I'm not taking them out. Like I'm not playing them. Um, you they're all necessary pieces. Um, which is
So yeah.
insane that like they made us 4 new cards and all 4 of them are amazing.
Okay, so guys, if you enjoyed this video, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel for new amazing content. And if you have any questions about the deck, let us know down in the comments below, and I think Nix and I will answer any questions you might have. Nix, do you have any shout outs maybe
Any
before
shout
we
outs?
go?
You think I know people?
Okay
Um,
then.
um, Shout out to me. Um, I play DDD, and I think that's pretty based.
Yeah, okay. Shout outs to MBT for hosting the tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. Shout outs to MBT for featuring me. Also, yeah.
Okay,
We have the
so
same locals, so you know.
and thank you so much for sharing the deck with us.
Yeah,
So
thank
guys,
you for having me.
I'll see you in the next one. Bye.